Let's f***ing roll.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the McMaster Studio here in FOCO, USA. You're listening to the SaltyMF GOAT Podcast. Today, we're excited to speak with Bill Hale. He's an ex-Navy vet, family man, businessman, entrepreneur. He runs a company called FetchGoat, which we'll talk a little bit later about how that impacts what's going on now with UPS and courier. So that ought to be an interesting subject. Bill resides from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where basically he was a Native American Indian. And Bill and I just met through business means, and he is an excellent guy. We hit it off, so I wanted to have him on the podcast and talk a little dude stuff. So Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it's an honor to be here.
It's awesome, and I love your shirt, the FetchGoat shirt. So the goats stick together.
Dude, they do. That's what drew us together.
Yeah.
So we saw the sticker, and we come by. I still have the picture when we were checking the office out. We rolled by your office, and I saw the goat sticker. I was like, it's a sign.
Yeah,
we got to go. That's it.
It's an omen, no doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt. Well, you and I were talking about some funny stories, and I know that you were talking about when you were growing up in Oklahoma and stories about, you said, hey, we were poor, and you were talking about the difference between the girls' button shirts and the boys' button shirts, and I had never heard that. I thought that was a funny story. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. I mean, what it was like in Oklahoma. And
Yeah, I was PBT, right? Poor brown trash.
I'm poor white trash, so I understand.
That's terrible to say. We would have a lot of money growing up. We were poor, and people ask all the time. They say, "Well, hold on, kids don't know when you're poor."
Yeah,
bullshit. You know when you're poor. You know when the other poor kids in the neighborhood go, God damn, man, you guys are poor. You get a pretty good idea.
There's like a class system in the poor section, right?
Yeah. So we went to school. We're hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I had 3 older sisters, so the choices were great.
Yeah.
So I picked something that looked okay, and then got to school. I got called out. I won't say her name because I still know who she is.
Yeah.
I'm on social media with her now, so.
Yeah. She knows. We know who you are.
You know who you are. So yeah, she called me out and like, he's a 3rd or 4th grade. She said, "You're wearing a girl's shirt." I'm like, "I'm not." And then she said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "It buttons up from the other side. Our shirts button up from the other side."
Yeah, what a bitch.
That's yeah. And I was like, "No, it didn't. No, it doesn't." I tried to get out. I was busted.
Yeah,
or the wrong shirt.
I love it. Your sister should have come and defended you. Said, "Hey, don't talk." They would say, "Don't talk bad about my brother. Don't talk bad about my shirt."
Yeah. So no, I think they probably enjoyed me being made fun of.
Yeah.
So you know how siblings are.
So we were talking just about the Navy and the opportunity to go to the Navy, and you were saying, hey, I was looking for a way to pay my school, and I believe you were in rescue, right, in the Navy.
I did, yeah. We were part of an overarching search and rescue, big search and rescue organization on a ship in the furthest point of the Gulf. So we were in Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Southern Watch. So I did 2 tours. And so we were at what they call tip of the spear. So that's the furthest tip of the Gulf, running search and rescue missions. So ended up with 21 rescues.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 21 rescues during that time. Best time of my life. I found my way to the Navy from school, went to college, didn't do so well in school, but man, I could party.
Yeah, you and I would have hung out, I think, quite a bit.
But anyway, so after several requests for me to leave the university, I finally did. And so I joined the Navy, because I got to figure out a way to pay for school. Yeah. And so okay, well, I don't want to join any other branch because I could be stationed, at the time I was in Kansas, and so I thought, okay, well, if I join any branch, I could end up back here in Kansas, but if I join the Navy, I'm going to be on the East Coast or West Coast, near the water, and that would not suck.
Yeah.
So I did. So joined the Navy and ended up, it worked out great. Ended up on the West Coast, and the rest is history.
So what was it like though? Coming from Oklahoma and then Kansas in college, and then being on a ship out in the ocean. I mean, how was that kind of transition? Like, did you ever just kind of get slap happy on a boat? I mean, what's it like? What's it like? I always usually say I know submarine guys.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. I could tin can like that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't do that for sure. I've been trying to figure that out. Somehow the military has a way to take a bunch of guys and gals from literally all walks of life, every economic background,
right,
every social background, every ethnicity, literally a melting pot of people and personalities and economic, situations, and put them all together, and you leave there and you're brothers, and sisters. You're not coworkers. I mean, you literally are brothers or sisters. My guy, and it doesn't matter even after the fact if you served, no matter what branch, you're a brother or sister. You've done it.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of buddies about that. I mean, I think it's a lot of the things that kind of in the civilian world, the day-to-day political bullshit that goes on, is like you all have a purpose, right? And everybody's working for the purpose or has a particular job to achieve the purpose or achieve the mission or what you're doing. And I think that kind of combined purpose and everybody knows what the purpose is, a lot of bullshit gets cut out. I mean, my father-in-law was in Vietnam, and we talk a lot about that. Yeah. And that's the same thing, all walks from life, all over the place. And when you're in a jungle or you're behind the barbed wire at night and tripwires are going off and whatever, I mean, you all become close pretty quick because you depend on each other to survive.
Literally.
And that's, he tells several stories about that. So, and even, a lot of those, 'cause that was a long time ago, obviously he's almost 75, but, I mean, they're still, thick as thieves, all of his buddies. So.
Oh, easily. Yeah. And that's all you have. Yeah. That's it. You depend on these other people to keep you alive and they depend on you.
Yeah.
And so, but you're right. You're focused on a mission. You have one purpose and you're there united, and yeah, it's amazing. And so I've been trying to figure out, how do you do that? How do you do that in business? How do you get your team really dialed in where you're more than just coworkers?
Yeah.
More than
we're a paycheck.
Oh, we're a family. We're not a family.
Yeah.
But how do you get that same cohesiveness of the organization as you can accomplish in the military?
Yeah.
It's amazing. I haven't figured it out. I think we got a great team, but I haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur my pretty much my whole adult life, but I think it's purpose, but also, I think we did a leadership thing around, how can you get teams to be more innovative, right? And innovation is a natural state. I mean, innovation is going to come over time. Everybody has good ideas. Everybody has, ideas that potentially could be a good innovation, but I think a lot of that comes down around, trust of the leader or trust of the owners, and do they trust you? Because I think if you truly trust someone, and they're asking you to do something, it's not like you feel like, okay, this guy's just managing me. I think that trust factor, and in the military, as time back in the military, it's either life or death. Business a little different, maybe not life or death. Life or death of the business, not necessarily the human. So. But I think of that a lot too, and how you do it. So, you've been in logistics, most of your life or around that in your business life, and I've kind of, based on learning about you guys and following up with you, where did that kind of love for logistics come from? Did it come from the military, or was it just something you kind of stumbled in? Okay,
yeah, it did. So when I got out of the military, I was at my sister's wedding. I had a job offer to go to work for Walmart, and I was going to work in one of, they had two facilities in the country that ran their computer systems worldwide. And so I was going to get into IT.
Yeah. which everybody did. I mean, how old you are, but that was like the hot thing,
man. I wanted to be in IT, and so I thought that was my path out. So I met a guy at my sister's wedding, and he was a vice president for a big trucking company, and so we were talking. Of course, we had a couple of beers. We were telling stories about the Middle East and some Navy stories that I probably can't repeat here.
You can repeat anything you want.
You're in the air, man.
You leave the names out.
Yeah. And so we had a great conversation. He says, look, he said, Walmart's a great organization. They're a big customer of ours. He said, but I don't know if you're cut out for IT. I just don't know. He said, come see what we do. And if you like it, great. You can come to work for me. I'll find a place for you. He said, but if you don't, hey, best of luck to you.
Yeah.
So he flew me up to Denver, and I was at this big distribution center they had in Denver. And so I walked out onto this platform that looked out over the dock, and there was trucks flying everywhere and forklifts and people and it was just chaos. I was like, I'm home.
Yeah, perfect.
This is just like the military.
The Rockies probably didn't hurt either. Did you end up living in Denver? Is that
we did. Yeah, we did. We lived in Denver. We lived in Denver for 5 years, pretty close to. And then, of course, like any larger corporation, then if you want to advance, you have to move.
Yeah.
So then they moved me out around the country. But that was it. I fell in love with the chaos, and we still thrive on the chaos. Now we solve chaos.
Oh yeah.
And so we use that experience to solve it.
Yeah. And I say, like, with all the, in the news, what's going on with UPS, and I think you said they settled kind of, so they kind of came to agreement. But with UPS and Amazon and all these logistics and distribution companies, I mean, COVID just exploded those because nobody could do anything. And that was kind of the, kind of a lead into what you guys are doing at FetchGoat, which I find really interesting, because a lot of people don't know about the last mile or, what it means in the courier area. They just think, oh, UPS does everything or FedEx does everything. They don't really know the ecosystem behind it. But behind, the big companies are all these local or regional couriers that are doing what, they call in logistics the last mile delivery, right? And so you guys have, during that kind of COVID or a little bit before, you kind of came up with FetchGoat to kind of bring all that information together to see and track where these packages and things are coming from. Is that kind of correct, or
no? I'm kidding.
That's
spot on. I don't
know research, but when your name's SaltyMF, you don't really.
That's it. That's all there is to say.
Yeah.
We did. So we looked at it as an opportunity. I mean, because I've been in this thing for 30 years, and so have the guys in different positions. But being in the business as long as we have, one of the things that we found is we would always have the same process on the sales side and operations side. We would go out to visit a big customer. We would walk into a conference room. We would talk about what we wanted to talk about, whether it was our performance or maybe a new product that we were positioning. And then when we would finish talking with them, we would head out and go meet the team, right?
Yep.
And the team were all the people that were out there on the phones and behind their computers sending emails, but they're trying to get status information for all these deliveries, but they were dealing with the last mile delivery companies.
Yep.
And it didn't mean that they were broken, right? Because these are big organizations, very smart people, very capable people. But it meant the industry's broken because we have allowed so many different technologies and dispatch systems to manage all the different providers out there. And there's hundreds and thousands and thousands of providers out there. And so they all use a different system. So we looked at it as an opportunity to say, okay, what if we could bring all that under one technology? I mean, literally, right? And so if you look at FedEx and UPS, the two biggest folks out there, right? They're not the largest delivery companies in America. Surprise.
Combined, yes.
Right. Combined, you take all those regional folks that are out there, and then if you connect them under one technology, that's the biggest delivery company in the country. And we can do the same thing all over the world.
Yeah.
Because it's the same process. So that's what we're doing at FetchGoat.
Well, and that's amazing too, because, really as far as businesses and entrepreneurs, Amazon was a small company at one time. Yeah, I think FetchGoat has some really good opportunity to be something like a kind of a name, a home brand name. So that's incredible. You don't really think about it until I don't remember what my wife ordered, but I came out of my house maybe a couple of weeks ago, and it's like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And there's this little girl sitting in a car, and I'm like, what is she doing here? And so she gets out and she goes, "Oh, here's your delivery." And I was just thinking, like, wow, first of all, what the hell is this, that it's that important that you're sitting at? But I just thought, like, you don't really see that. You see the FedEx truck or the UPS truck, but all these couriers and last mile people out there are doing a lot of work. And, kudos to that young lady who was delivering whatever that menial thing was that my wife needed at 5 a.m. It was pretty amazing.
Well, that's the way it works, right? So FedEx and UPS, they don't serve every zip code in the country. They do service it, but they don't service it in their own vehicles.
Right.
Not the FedEx vehicles or even the UPS vehicles. They can't. I mean, the only person that really does that is the Postal Service.
Yeah.
They service every mailbox in the country, which is just unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
So with FedEx and UPS, what they do is they have delivery partners in the rural areas and places where they don't have a lot of volume. Where they have volume or capacity or density, then, they have their own vehicles there, and it makes sense, right? Because they have the economies of scale in those areas. Where they don't have it, they hand it off to a delivery partner.
Yeah.
And there's literally tens and thousands of those delivery partners that they use that help them make up their network.
That's right.
So, yeah. So that's exactly what we looked at is being a large enterprise shipper. You have to use those last mile delivery partners.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to manage all those ones, like you've got them in every region, right? So you could have 40, 50, 60 different delivery partners throughout the country. The only way to manage those is people.
Yeah.
And so that's why we came up with FetchGoat, to lay our technology over the top of all of them and aggregate all that data into one dashboard where you can manage them all from one place.
That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing.
My partner, Chris Mallon. Chris is just a friggin' genius. He is.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
He's a smart dude, funny dude, but he is a smart guy. And he's the one that completely architected, the system or built it.
So you've been an entrepreneur and done entrepreneurial things for a while. Like, what is it that you like? Because I feel a lot of our audience, and people, like myself that have been entrepreneur and stuff and like starting things, what advice do you give to people that, like, you guys have just gone through this over the last 3 years for FetchGoat, right? And, what advice do you give, like, a young woman or man or entrepreneur that's has a good idea, wants to execute an idea, and really how to get it off the ground? Like you obviously had years of logistics and things like that, so there wasn't something you said, hey, this might be a good idea, let's try it. But what kind of advice do you give people out there that are looking to start something like that?
Do it. Do it. Yeah. Well, obviously you want to make sure that your idea is sound. Yeah. Do you have a captured market? It really helped us that we have such good relationships within the industry. We had a really good sounding board with people that are potentially going to pay you for the service, and then B, the carriers that are out there that are actually that we're going to connect with.
Right.
And so we had a great relationship with those. There was a great friend of mine. He's up in Chicago. His name is Rick Roberts, Condor Express in Chicago, the best agent out there.
Call out to Condor.
So Rick was our sounding board, and also our lead investor, a guy named Mark Tuckman. Mark, I worked for, he built a company literally from just himself in a truck into a $300+ million organization and sold it.
That's awesome.
And Mark is obviously wildly successful guy, a serial entrepreneur. So I had these sounding boards that we could take our ideas to and say, does this make sense?
Yep.
And they're going to tell us yes or no. So find that network that that's going to benefit or use your product carefully. It needs to be people you can trust. Take your idea, make sure it's sound. You need to figure out a clear path to revenue.
Yeah.
And you can have all the ideas in the world, but we battle that every day, making sure that we show that clear path to revenue, because without revenue, you got a great idea,
or you got to be a good money raiser,
Yeah.
Which I was never good at raising money. I didn't like taking that money. So
yeah. Well, no, you don't want to give up. We get that advice all the time because we have investors in the organization, thank God. And, but you have to make that decision is, okay, do we want to give up any of the company to raise money to get this dream off the ground? Yeah. Or in our case, we had bootstrapped the total build, we paid for it. So Chris and I and another couple of guys, we paid for the build of FetchGoat, and to build an enterprise platform like that is not cheap.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's expensive. I know, coming out of my background with building products, it's really expensive, and you're never done. Like, there's never a point where, okay, I'm going to spend $1 million and then great, I'm done. Then the other fun stuff comes.
Keep running all the time.
The fun stuff like marketing and sales and advertising goes on top of that. A lot of entrepreneurs I talk to, and young entrepreneurs specifically, there's a lot of financing opportunities. With VC, private equity. Debt. There's a lot of financing opportunities, I think, more so available now than when I started 30 years ago. But what I tell them is, if you're happy and you want your company to be big quickly, or over a 5 to 10 year period, and you're okay with losing control, and where you might have started with 100%, you might end up luckily maybe with 7 or 8%, which could be a lot of money. But, most entrepreneurs that I know that start, they really weren't doing it for the money. They believed in the idea, or they saw the problem or whatever. So it's a real dilemma I see them go through. And, once you get in that raising money mode, it never ends. We had several businesses years ago that we had some advisors telling me, you got to be professionally raising money all the time. You have to be the face. And thank God. And one of them, I just said, I'm a sales guy, man, and I'm going to go sell what we have, because we're going to get out of business if I sit here and, worry about trying to convince someone to put money in something. The consumer, as you said, is it viable? Are people going to pay for it? Ultimately, that will, I think, determine whether you're successful or not.
Yeah. That's spot on. And that's where we were. We bootstrapped it. We had not an MVP. We had a working product. We had one of the largest organizations in the world on the network with our number one customer. And at that point, we looked at it and said, okay, our resources are running dry. We need to bring in an investor to help us scale this. And so we went to a trusted advisor in a guy named Mark Tuckman, and said, Mark, you see what we're building. He believed in the product, he believed in what we're doing. And we said, we want to scale this, but we need some assistance. So we asked him to be on the board, and he's like, he wanted to be a part of the organization.
That's awesome.
So we took a little seed money from Mark, and here we go.
That's awesome. Well, as far as even timing, you don't really think about the intricacies of how dynamic and how in bed these companies are, like UPS and Amazon. And so, like, to the average person, I was talking to someone, I'm like, well, UPS, they might go on strike, they may walk off the job. Like, you don't really realize how impactful that is to the world, right? Not just from the union employee side, the corporate side. What are your thoughts on, like, that whole? I'm just curious, because you're in that industry. Like, for some people, they don't pay attention to it, but all of a sudden, if UPS went on strike and they weren't getting whatever they get, they start to pay more attention to it. Like, what are your thoughts on that? On, like, the vulnerability of just the general population, the people that, like, if FedEx or one of these companies goes on strike or went out of business, what's the impact? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, because people are clueless, I think, to what's going on.
Well, people have short memories. People have very short memories. And so I was around in the 97 strike when, so I was in the business in 1997 when UPS went on strike last time. And I was working for a national provider. We were one of the largest trucking companies in America, and it brought us to our knees. We almost put us out of, not put us out of business, but it brought the company down to where we were damn near gridlock. Right. Had it gone on another week, we'd have been in trouble. Yeah. Because what happens is immediately you have all this freight that's in their system. Remember, that's like 20%, I forgot the number. It's a big number of all the parcels that are moving in this country. Of all the it's nuts how much volume that is. And so all of a sudden you have everything in their system that floods into the market. Well, you're not prepared to handle that kind of volume like that. You have to work up to that. And so that part hits. Well, then it's all the volume that the customer sat on for a couple of days because they just shit their pants. Right. And said, what are we going to do? Yep. And so then all of a sudden they push all that volume on. And so you have this first wave that rocks everybody back on their heels, including the big national providers. And then all of a sudden, here comes a wave about 4 times as large right behind it, like a tsunami. Right. And that's what just throws everybody into a fit, because even like the larger trucking companies like we're used to handling large palletized type freight that moves, across the country. Then all of a sudden, with this palletized freight, you get a box that weighs 1 pound. Yeah. And you got to go deliver that 1 box. Yeah. In a semi. And so that's what was necessary, but that wasn't the tough part. Well, I mean, obviously that was a very tough part, but right behind that, when they finally settled the strike and they went back to work, then you had the billing issues that came after that, because, the shipper, like, hey, my pricing with UPS says that I pay $13.85 for this 1 pound package to move in this.
You charge me $30.
Like, hey man, our minimum charge is $119. Yeah, $119. Yeah, we got a problem here. Right. And so that was just a mess, not only operationally, but also administratively too. It was an absolute disaster. So today, as we were leading up to the potential strike, there was a lot of customers, and we were the ones, that we were prepared to help, absolutely, and still prepared to help. Yeah. For a little thing that we call Carrier Diversification. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Don't just use the UPS or don't just use the FedEx. And so what a lot of people are doing is realizing that, well, hold on, it's 2023. We have technology like FetchGoat. And with that technology, we can connect all these regional providers under one system. Yeah. And so now we can duplicate that system into those furthest reaches of those regional areas that we were talking about before. So we can put those systems together and reach, the vast majority, or provide, same or better service than they're getting at a cheaper price. Like maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say that's good for the consumer though. I mean, I think kind of what you guys are doing with the kind of aggregation of all these different, smaller couriers makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, part of the reason we also want to have you on today was because of that. Because, I mean, I think this would have been a pretty big deal to the world if the strike did happen. And I mean, there's other things that, from an entrepreneur perspective that you guys, think of and look at, that if you start using the power of all these small companies and aggregate it up, you can obviously lower cost, better service, reasons why some of these companies like UPS and Amazon are in place in the first place. So I was really excited to, watch you guys grow and what you're doing. And so people, I think right now you're more directly to the business, right? Business to business side, right? So like tell someone if they're interested in like getting involved with you guys or looking at kind of what you're doing, like where they would go, how they would contact you, those kind of things.
Sign up, come see the system first. Yeah. I mean, the system really tells a great story. So if you go to FetchGoat.com and sign up for a demo, we'll run you through a demo. We'll show you exactly how it works. We'll walk you through the whole process, and it's very intriguing. And so once you see it and realize how simple it is, that it's not a daunting task anymore.
Yeah.
These providers are out there, and the best part about it is you're employing and supporting local companies wherever you are, and so if you're shipping to a part of the country, well, rest assured those people that are delivering the product, they live and work in the community where your customers are.
Yeah, and I think America's kind of opening up to not necessarily moving way back to just localization, but with all the things that go on, like in a corporate environment or big box companies, people get fed up with it, and I mean, I know that we started Salty, during COVID as well. Yeah. And I know our local community here in FOCO, USA, they know us, they knew us, we grew up with them. So I mean, if I'm going to go buy, a hat or something from Nike or whoever, they'd rather, support a local brand, right? And that localization has helped us, go even broader. But I mean, I appreciate all the people here locally that did that. So I think that's a good story, and I think that's kind of what America should be about, right? I mean, I'm a capitalist. Don't get me wrong. I'm a businessman, right? Everyone wants to make money, but at the end of the day, that personalization, or hey, I know Stan that owns that, or Susan that owns that, it's a lot more meaningful. And I think we all need to get back to the community type approach to things.
I agree.
So that'll be your new slogan, FetchGoat, bringing back the local community.
Yeah. I like it. The other thing that really, from a purpose standpoint, is you have more control. You really do. You don't control no matter how big you are, you don't control FedEx or UPS.
Oh yeah.
You don't. You can make suggestions.
Yeah.
Send an email, send a comment in the website.
Yeah.
But you don't control them. You have control when you're dealing with these regional players.
Yeah.
And they can tailor services to you that FedEx and UPS just won't do.
Well, and they, if you're in the business world, the big bureaucracies move slow. I mean, it's like the government, right? Yeah. I mean, where small, nimble companies can, if it makes sense financially, or even the fact they've got a bigger subset of customers that might want a service like this, they can be nimble. They can be like a SWAT team. They can be quick. They can make that happen. So the big machines, it takes a lot of time to turn that that big warship around versus a small boat. So
let me tell you about the coolest thing we're doing right now.
Let's hear it.
Do we have time?
We have plenty of time. This is all about you, brother.
All right, so check it out. So organs for transplant.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about medical
organs for transplant. So they're undergoing what's called a modernization initiative. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to introduce technology to a really antiquated process of moving organs for transplant. Number one, organs can no longer go in the cabin, or now there's new legislation to change that, but they can no longer go right in the cabin. They were forced to ride down below with luggage. Organs for transplant, life-saving organs, had to ride down with Grandma Samsonite, right? And then
that'd be a great Samsonite commercial. Trust your organs to Samsonite.
That's right. That's kind of more like a Toomey.
Toomey, all right.
That's a Toomey move. So anyway, so the organs move really in an antiquated fashion. There's all the manual tracking because, there's 56 organ procurement organizations in America that control all the organs regionally. And so what happens is they move them all regionally because they have limited visibility of those,
right?
Because of their lack of technology and the lack of them being able to put all those organizations together seamlessly in one, one system. On the logistics side, it's been very, very challenging. We introduced FetchGoat to the organ procurement organizations and to an organization called the OPTN, and another organization, the parent organization called HRSA, which is a federal organization. Yeah. And so we were invited to participate in the modernization
that's great.
Of the organ transplant community. Right. And so what our system does is it allows all of those 56 organ procurement organizations to, basically let FetchGoat put their technology over the top of them, and then that way we can give the OPTN and another organization called UNOS, which these are the overarching organizations. And so give them complete visibility of every moving organ in the country.
That's awesome. So as long as that organ didn't come out of a hotel room in Vegas, you woke up in a bathtub of ice, it's legitimately stamped. That's good. Yeah. So it'll be good. It'll be maybe able to track some of the crooked things going on in that space.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't need to get into that. That would probably be another podcast, but
it's a much later podcast.
That's right.
But no, to be invited to participate and change the way that is, it was an honor.
Yeah.
And so we're marching down the path with them and going to do some great things.
That's good, man.
Sure.
Well, good. If I ever need an organ, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to request that FetchGoat's tracking it. Yeah, if it's not FetchGoat approved, I'm not getting that new liver.
That's right.
But that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you on. I mean, you've been good to us. You were kind of a supporter of SaltyMF, and obviously with, great minds think alike with the FetchGoat and the SaltyMF, and we know that you're going to be a success, and we like to honor entrepreneurs and people with new ideas, and we're about the gritty, tough guys coming up and putting it to some of these large entities sometimes. So
amen.
We hope to see you. Just don't be an asshole when you get really famous.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's possible.
All right, well that's good. Well,
we appreciate it.
So So Salty Nation out there, we've had Bill Hale here today. He's an awesome guy, ex-Navy vet, good guy, family man, businessman. He's doing some really good things in the logistics and that last mile area with FetchGoat. So, check him out. But more importantly here, we're about sponsoring entrepreneurship, leadership, individualism, freedom. And Bill represents that. And I was very honored to have him on our show today. And Bill, we really appreciate it. Any last words?
It's an honor. Thank you for having me. Best of luck to Salty. We love Salty.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, no, best of luck. Thanks for having us, and go FetchGoat.
Go FetchGoat. FOCO USA, baby, in Baxter Studio. We'll see you next week. Let's go.